Hi, I'm Jamee Ranta. I'm the producer of If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power. And this is the Go Creative Show.
Hello and welcome to the Go Creative Show, a podcast for filmmakers. My name is Ben Consoli, and today we speak with Jamee Ranta, producer of Halsey's If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power. Jamee, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
We are so happy to have you because it's so rare that we have producers on the show to begin with. And there's so much to learn about what the role of a producer is, because a lot of people just simply don't know. They're like these mystery people off in the wings, doing things, making things happen. And I think a lot of people just don't know what your responsibilities are and what you're doing. And I'm sure it's quite a lot. So we're going to get to all of that. But before we get there, I just want to mention our sponsor for today's episode, MZ Empowering Filmmakers. And of course, follow us on your favorite podcast app, as well as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. All things Go Creative Show at gocreativeshow.com. So just like I said at the top of the show, I think what I'm excited about most in this conversation is to talk about the role of a producer. Now, you're here today because you produced Halsey's latest long-form music video, an hour-long film for If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power, which is just such an awesome album anyway. I absolutely loved it. I'm a huge Nine Inch Nails fan. So,
Hey.
having Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross produce that album. But what a fun project. I mean, have you worked on something long-form like this before?
I have worked on something long form before, but I don't think there's anything like this, to be honest with you, that I've even seen before. It's such a unique piece and a unique experience, and I don't think you can really quite fit this film into any specific genre.
Well, how do you describe it? Like for people that aren't familiar with the album, that aren't familiar with Halsey at all, how would you describe this project?
Well, this project is, I'll just give it a bit more like general strokes because I don't want to get into the details of it. But this project is kind of a very emotional piece that takes you on a journey of horror and drama and anger and love and all at the same time. So it's a very emotional ride of experiencing the duality of anger and betrayal and hurt and pain and love and kindness and gentleness all at once. And it's a very strong, like feminine presence. And cinematically, it's kind of like a period piece. It's kind of like a horror film. It's kind of like a fashion film. It's kind of like a music video. There's so much depth to what we shot. I'm honestly, I don't quite know how to put my finger on describing it yet. I'm still working on that.
Well, and I think you did a good job because it really does. It does all of those things. And for those of you guys that haven't seen it yet, it is available now on HBO Max. Up to this point, I think yesterday was the release day on HBO Max. It was in theaters only, and it was IMAX, which was kind of an interesting choice. And I'm curious how you came to the decision that IMAX was the way to go for this film.
Well, actually, Anthony, who is Halsey's manager, and myself were like, what would be really cool? He had a connection. He was like, what do you guys think about, somehow partnering with IMAX for the sake of like shooting on IMAX camera? And maybe we can do like the premiere there. And I was like, I think that's incredible. And then it turned into like, why don't we make this much bigger than what we're thinking? Why don't we make this like an IMAX release? And so we spoke with Jason over at IMAX and talked, from both a filmmaker standpoint of what that might look like, as well as an artist standpoint. I don't know that an artist has done something as grand and as powerful as an IMAX release. And, having an album become a film and released in theaters and have ticket sales is just like wild.
The whole way that this thing kind of unfolded and got distributed is so unique that you almost think to yourself, like, how did this happen? And it's interesting to hear that it sort of evolved and it got bigger and bigger and bigger as you were diving into it. But I immediately, I see this and I think hour-long music video, and I'm saying, this has got to be expensive. Like, someone has to pay. I mean, usually, a label is certainly going to pay for a video. Well, maybe not even certainly, but a label may pay for one video, two videos. If you've got big, massive hits, maybe it keeps going. But to commit at the beginning to an hour-long film takes some courage.
Yes.
Certainly.
There were quite a few conversations over the course of a few months before we actually started to get the green light on the project. So it started out like, should we do 8 music videos, just the whole album? And then should we make it like a story? And no, let's not do music videos. Let's do a proper film. And should she sing in it? Absolutely not. This is a film. This isn't a music video. So it has those elements, but it's very much not a music video. Some artists have done album videos where videos will trail into one or another, like Beyonce's Lemonade or something. This is a very different approach altogether. And I think that the people over at Capitol Records had to have a lot of courage to take that, risk, because that's something, they're like, okay, how are we going to market this? How's this going to work out? And, what is our risk? How much are we willing to invest in a project like this? And, it was just kind of like a mix of, the label communicating, the management team communicating, and myself and director Colin kind of really packaging this idea together, and IMAX, of course, being involved. And I do have to give props to Anthony, who is her manager, for his brilliant mind, and Halsey herself for just being so hands-on in every aspect creatively, every conversation that has to do with the film, the marketing, the designers that are involved and brought to the piece in terms of wardrobe, makeup. She personally did her own makeup. Wow. And it's incredible. She did even the special effects makeup, everything. And she mostly used her own makeup line, which is a great plug. but that wasn't her intention. Her intention was I made this makeup line because it's incredible and I want to have makeup like this to create artistic expressions like this, with vibrant colors and textures. So she's definitely an incredible artist, was very hands-on visually, creatively, wrote the film. And then Colin, next level director. The shots that we sat down with Colin and Elias, the cinematographer, and myself every single day, and going through the scene for weeks, every single day, shot for shot, talking about how to design the shots and why we should design them that way and what it might look like. And then the schedule was a whole thing. We shot during in a COVID lockdown in Prague. And that was a challenge in and of itself, and the schedule and some of the challenges that we faced. Halsey was pregnant during the filming of this, and that is, a very sensitive thing. We have to be mindful of her health at all times, and the hours that she's on set and the hours that the crew's on set, and COVID testing and the stunts and making sure we have, all of the elements and safety precautions in play. So that was definitely a challenge, but I'm so grateful for the team and what we were able to pull off, and how safe everybody was, and how diligent and kind everybody was, and creative and collaborative. It really felt like a family after we were finished. And there was about a week afterwards where everyone was just kind of okay, now what are we going back to normal life,
What do we do now? Exactly. Well, I want to talk about that collaboration, especially in the creative realm, because I'm curious, and I'm sure people in the audience are too. As producer, how involved in the creative are you in something like this?
I don't know how other producers are or how involved other people are, but in terms of my collaboration, I was very much involved with casting, very much involved with styling. I personally helped put for the background, not for Halsey. She was all hands on her own styling with her stylist, Law Roach. But in terms of like the background and the costume design, myself and the production or the stylist, the head stylist, we spent, several days going through back and forth with different looks and making sure, with the different characters and making sure, okay, and talking about their characters and does this look like something this person would wear and where they're going to be placed in the frame and what's their role, and then taking photos and then adjusting it and then making sure it looks great next to, and that Halsey's looks all stand out, but there's some cohesiveness because it's technically a period piece, but it has a lot of like modern elements and structure, textures, and also the conversation of knowing what Elias and Colin have discussed in terms of mood and lighting and how light and shadow, and then the color palette for the production design. We're like, okay, so we need to make sure that the wardrobe is contrast in certain scenes and certain places, and let's place this person here or there. So I worked very closely with the stylist, the first AD, second AD on set. Even with if something seemed a little bit off color wise, I'd be like, oh, switch that out,
Yeah, it sounds like you were pretty involved in the creative. Is that typical for you in your other projects too?
Every other one. I feel like we are a really strong team at Boy in the Castle, and we definitely
your production company, right?
With Colin.
Yeah.
So we are a very strong team. We've been working together for many, many years. So we kind of have like a sync of like, I know Colin's taste and style, and I know how Elias shoots and his taste and style, and they know that I'm going to provide them with what they need. So there's a very strong trust there. And I generally, like to help out with casting and styling. And a lot of times they will like definitely make sure, obviously Colin is the director, so he's very much involved with everything. But also like, we'll all three sit down and have conversations about what that looks like texturally, logistically, stylistically, and narratively. So I don't know if other people seem to get in that depth with the conversations, but we also spend a lot of time watching reference movies together. We lived together in an apartment for a month and a half. Every day it was like, I'd come downstairs where the guys are and we'd have breakfast and we'd just go straight into the conversations and we'd watch reference movies and, we just put things together like that.
Now, as a producer on a project like this, I understand there's some uniqueness to this because you were shooting during COVID, you were kind of living together in that time period. But can you speak to us in general, and maybe just from your previous experiences as well, about the role of a producer in music video, particularly? I think there's a lot of people in the audience that don't necessarily know what a producer does or has like a vague idea of what it is that they do. And I'd like to just kind of almost answer those questions. It's not like we have a list of questions here, but I'm thinking like, what should young filmmakers know about what a producer does?
I think the fundamental thing that a young creative should know is that your producer is the person that's going to make your idea happen and become a tangible, real life experience that you're going to film. So while, a lot of creatives are excited about the creative process and, what that looks like, it's the producer's job to take that concept and that idea and make it an actual reality within the logistics and the financial constraints of the budgets that are given and within their, safe parameters of what they're trying to accomplish with that idea. And the producer is going to be the one that takes that concept or that treatment and breaks it down logistically and financially into an actual budget with a very detailed list of what's included in that budget, what's not included in that budget. So like you're going to have a conversation with your producer, like whether you want, whether this shot requires driving shots, techno crane, Steadicam, whatever the camera support might be. The producer needs to know all of that so that they can plan it accordingly. The producer needs to know what location you're thinking, what textures you're wanting, what environment, is it indoor, outdoor, day, night, all those little fine details, how many cast, what kind of extras, what kind of wardrobe they're going to have, makeup they're going to have. The producer is going to be the one that gets all those details out of the creative team, or if it's very solidified, goes and makes sure that all of those things are accomplished within the parameters of the job. And the producer will also set the bids and submit those over to the label or the commercial client or the studio, whatever it might be. Submit a bid to show the business teams exactly what they're getting for their dollar down to the line items. So it's a process that not a lot of people understand. And then the producer will hire their production team, production manager, coordinator, and that team within that producer's oversight is going to hire the crew members. It's going to hire all of the vendors and making sure that everything arrives to set, coordinate with the first AD to make sure that things are scheduled properly, coordinate with each department and what they're meeting their needs. A producer is like a service to the creative. You are the person that is like, you're the like head of hospitality. You have to like have good energy. People are going to like, whatever is at the top, it trickles down. So people are going to like look to you to solve problems. They're going to look to you to guide them. They're going to look to you to encourage and support them. So you have to do all of those things. And when you get in a groove with your crews, that, you know, it almost becomes family in the sense of like, you have like great trust, very good communication. All those things are super important, I think, on a set, because, you know, what we do is kind of extraordinary, and the things that we pull off in the situations that we're in is not normal day-to-day office things. So you kind of have to really depend and trust on each other and have, and that comes from the top. So I feel like that's the best way to describe like what a producer does. Also, producer's job is to abide by union rules, by California labor laws or New York labor laws, or wherever you're at, Prague, the laws of other countries.
The laws of Prague in a pandemic.
Yeah, the health department. Like, you also have to be highly educated in laws, rules, regulations. You know, your production team, not your producer particularly, but your production team is going to be processing your paycheck and making sure that your hours are submitted correctly and making sure that you're getting paid on time and all those details. It's all the responsibility of the production team underneath the producer. So it's quite a lot that...
It is. And if you guys weren't making a list, it's basically everything. All the things. It's everything. And it was so well said, because I produce commercials here in Boston. So like, I totally feel that. I haven't gotten into music videos, just haven't had the opportunity, but mostly commercial work and a lot of events more recently, like, you know, virtual events, corporate, like video, because they're not doing in-person things as much anymore. You're doing everything. And one of the hardest things to do, I think, as a producer, for me at least, and it's getting easier the more experience I get, is navigating those times where you have to sort of be honest with the creative team about the fact that they really can't do what they want. Like, if the budget doesn't allow what their vision is, and your job is to make their vision of reality, what are some strategies you use to kind of knock the sense into them and just give a dose of reality?
So I never come to the table and say, sorry, I just can't do that. I'm going to come to the table with a solution, and multiple solutions if I have the option, and say, hey, this is our reality, but we can do A, B, or C. What do you think about those? And sometimes they're like, yeah, let's do that. And sometimes they're like, no, we're going to do this instead. And I'm like, okay, we can do that too. You know, like, it's just a conversation. It's not an easy conversation to have. You know, nobody likes to hear the word no, but that's part of being, you know, a respectable creative. You got to understand that you can't get everything that you want, you know. That's just how life goes. So it's definitely a balance of being mindful in the moment, making sure that you have options to present. That's how I handle it.
Yeah, and I think that's really the way to go. I mean, you don't want to go to the table saying no. You want to go to the table saying, let's try
Yes.
this. Let's try something
Yeah.
else, which I think is the right strategy. Let's take a quick moment and talk about MZ Empowering Filmmakers. Now, MZ is the sponsor of this episode, and we love them because you want to think about MZ as like the Netflix of filmmaking education. That's really what it is, because when you go to MZ, you're faced with hundreds of hours of high-quality, video-based filmmaking education that covers everything that we here at Go Creative Show want to know and want to learn more of. Directing, cinematography, post-production, visual storytelling, and so much more. And you can buy individual courses over at MZ, but what I suggest you do is become an MZ Pro member, because when you do that, you get access to the entire library. And believe me, there is so much to learn on MZ. Best thing to do is go to gocreativeshow.com/MZ. And when you buy either your individual course or your MZ Pro membership, be sure to use GCS20 in your discount code, GCS20, for 20% off of your purchase. Now, let's talk about the content. And this is just a few of the newer courses on MZ, but Indie Film Blueprint is a course that's basically a roadmap for how to plan, shoot, and sell your first indie feature. Like, who doesn't want to know that? Of course, there's courses in editing in DaVinci Resolve. Now, everybody knows Resolve certainly as a coloring app, but a lot of people are editing in it, and you can learn all the advanced tips to make sure that you become a better editor in DaVinci Resolve. And one of my personal favorites, The Art and Technique of Film Editing by Tom Cross. Now, Tom Cross is the editor of La La Land, the new No Time to Die, the new 007 movie, and so much more. So he is at the top of his game, and he's teaching all of us here at in Go Creative Show and people that are part of MZ. He's teaching you his craft, and he's working in the industry at a super high level. Like, that's what it's all about. In addition, you've got Vincent Laforet, Shane Hurlbut, Philip Bloom, all sorts of great educators there on MZ. It is a fantastic website, and you guys should check it out for yourself. MZ Empowering Filmmakers. Check it out at gocreativeshow.com/MZ, MZED. Another thing that's important for producers, I mean, speaking for myself, and I'm curious if you agree, is in order to get your budgets really tight and accurate, you kind of have to know a little bit about all of these departments, like what things cost. You need to kind of have a baseline knowledge of what any decision a director or a cinematographer comes up with, what it might cost. Or if you don't know, figure out how to find out.
Not only do you need to know what things cost, like, for example, how much a technocrane costs on a day, on a daily job. How much does it cost with the triple access head? Like, you need to know the details of it. You need to know the function of it. A lot of times on bigger shows, I'll see like they'll have an entire, like, they'll carry a technocrane on the entire job. And in my mind, I'm like, well, if that producer, if that person like knew they didn't need that technocrane for 4 days, they could have saved a little bit of money and put more money into like people's kit rentals or, fair, better wages or whatever it is. So it's like, just the more educated you are on the technical aspect of things, because sometimes producers come from a business background, which makes perfect sense, because a lot of production is, and I didn't mention this before, and I do want to like derail to this important conversation, is a lot of producing, and that role is dealing with clients and managing expectations of not only of the creative and the crews and the teams, but you're also the liaison and the communicator with the client and artists or high profile talent or actors that happen to be in your project. You're the person that they're going to be communicating with about certain things, making sure their needs are met. Do they have a motorhome? Is their writer up to par with what their expectations are? Are their deal memos signed? Are there, like, all of the details in that relationship is a whole nother part of it. But the more technical you are, and the more educated you are on how filmmaking is, because I come from a filmmaking background. So the more educated and technical that you are about that, I've noticed how helpful it has been in my career to be able to really make sure that the quality of work is matching the budget and matching the time that we have. I really, really enjoy having days that don't feel too long, experiences where people go home smiling and they're just happy that they were at work, and where we make some really incredible art and the creatives are happy and the client's like, wow, this was an incredible project. That is how I measure success. I don't necessarily measure it by the like, oh, I got so many awards, blah, blah, blah. I measure my success by a roundabout way of, did everyone feel emotionally positive leaving the set? Did contractually we deliver what we're supposed to? Financially, were we on budget? And do people feel like their needs have been met? And if everything like checks the box, then I'm like, whew, don't know how we pulled that off.
We are kindred spirits, Jamee. Honestly, like I that is exactly what I feel and I put out there. And you mentioned something a little bit earlier about how you're, I forget if you phrased it, the head of hospitality or something like that, the hospitality director. Family members that have no idea what I do and just doesn't make any sense when they ask me, I'm like, it's like I'm a party planner. You know what I mean? It's like I run a hotel or I'm a party planner or something like that. That's basically what it is, because I do feel like that. And it is important to make sure that your crews and your clients are feeling good on set. And it brings me to the next topic I wanted to discuss with you is if you have any thoughts on this recent potential IATSE strike. I guess they've had an authorization to strike. And not necessarily that I need your opinion on whether they should or not, but I think what it says is that there is an unhappiness on sets sometimes. And it comes from pushing your crew too far. And I feel like that's something that we have to deal with as producers in a unique way, because you have the money side of things and you think, okay, I have X amount of hours in a day to do something. But then you also have the personal side of things where if you push your crew too hard, people get cranky and angry and it just puts out bad vibes. So how do you deal with balancing that?
That is something that I pride myself on. And that is the one thing that I feel like I put the most focus and attention on as much as humanly possible. I think that at the end of the day, if the people that are on your team are unhappy with you, they're not going to support you like you need. If the people on your team feel a level of discomfort, and I'm not talking like your typical key grip, sorry guys, you know I love you, who's like, that's part of the beauty. That's part of the beauty of their character, and I love that about them. But
we love our key grips.
Like if they're trying to like, if they're struggling with something physically, or if they're just completely exhausted from being on set for so long, it's like you're not going to get. It's just like, what's that phrase? Like, I don't know, like pulling teeth. It's like, it's exhausting. It's more of a conflict than it is when you have people that feel inspired. When people feel inspired and people feel well rested and people feel well respected, then they're going to give you their 110%. And that's when you typically are like, oh, we got a shorter day. It's a sensitive thing to balance. And it's a lot of responsibility, emotionally responsibility. Sometimes you have to carry yourself because, like I was saying earlier, it comes from the top. You have to carry yourself in a way that's like, I might be exhausted. I work 17 hours if you're working 12, I might be tired, but I have to carry that. I have to be mindful of my energy and what I put out there when I'm on set, and not to project those things so that I can be a leader. And I truly believe that a leader isn't a boss. A leader is someone who serves. So for me and the way I carry my teams, that is my core value in what I do. And I don't know, I can't speak because I don't really have a lot of experience or education on working with other teams or how some of my colleagues might work, but that's just how I do it. So I don't know if I can say that all producers are this great and do all these things. I have no idea what.
Well, it's clearly not the case, because otherwise there wouldn't be a threat of a strike and you wouldn't have people upset. I mean, it's just that I think it takes a special person and a certain personality to make people feel the way that you are saying that you're making people feel, or at least want
that
to make
I want
people
to
feel.
make people feel. Yeah.
Exactly. Now,
I was just going to say, like, I do support, I don't know the details of all the things, because when they say it's against the producers, it's not against producers like myself or my colleagues. It's against the people that are on behalf of negotiating for the major picture studios. So that's the producers that they're talking about. I know that my crew, I've had conversations with my crew, like, I support you in whatever it is that you need, within reason of what is realistic within the current economy of the budgets and stuff that we do. And we are happy to make sure that our creatives try to align within those expectations so that there's not too much pressure and that the scale doesn't tip one way or the other too much. That's the best that I can do. Balance.
Yeah, and we did a whole episode on this strike authorization and the reasons why. And so if you guys listening are interested, you can go to our website. It's the last episode. We had Jim Deneau on talking about it. So we covered all of that. So you have basically worked with everybody. I mean, I'm looking at your IMDb. It's unbelievable. Justin Bieber, Megan Thee Stallion, Shawn Mendes, Cardi B, Iggy Azalea, Nicki Minaj. It goes on and on and on, doing music videos. But you said that you come from a filmmaking background and you have some commercial and film work on your reel as well. So when you're doing something like Halsey's, film video, I guess who even knows what to call it, is the approach more typical to a music video or more typical to a film? And I'm also curious, what are the differences?
I would say that the way that we go about approaching a project like this is more so along the lines of a film, in terms of like the way we have to schedule things out is so vastly different, where a music video or a commercial is a one-day project. This is, you might shoot one day and then, the first 3 pages, and then you might go back and shoot the second day. Is like the character is already feeling this heavy emotion and so much has happened in the timeline of the story. So you have to be more organized, more structured. It's more along the lines of the way that I would, plan and produce a film, a little bit more prep in terms of something that's longer and feature length. I think it's really comes down to the prep. Yeah, the prep process is a lot more intense and a lot different. In terms of music videos, I feel like the approach that we do is like a big one day on a Michael Bay film set. We always have some sort of explosions or helicopters or horses or some wild stunts on wireworks or something crazy. So I think that I'm so grateful for all of my music video experience, because it really allowed me to play with the tools and so many different things that really set you up for those bigger shows like the Halsey film that we did. Because of all of that experience in music videos and all the like wild things that we've done on those day-to-day projects, I was able to really understand how much everything costs, put it together. And it's just a matter of prep time, I think, is the difference. That's really not much different. The budget templates are different.
I can imagine. What is like a typical schedule for a large-scale music video? Not like Halsey's film, but something like you're working with somebody like a Justin Bieber, like a huge name. They have a music video coming out. What's the typical schedule for something like that?
1 to 2 day shoots. Yeah.
Really? That sort of surprises me. I just assume larger budget, bigger star, you just have more time. I'm actually kind of surprised to hear that.
No, we have a really good way of structuring our shows. Most of them are videos. Most of them are 1 day shoots. They're not like crazy 16, 18 hours. We've done a couple of 14-hour days and here and there. I'm not going to lie to you. We try to keep them slimmed down. A lot of times we do 2 units. If there's a lot to accomplish. And when I work with Colin, particularly, knows his vision, knows what he wants, and he's very functional. And I think because the crew is so in line with each other and they're so familiar with each other, we tend to use a lot of the same crew members, that it's just like clockwork in the terms of how the pacing goes. So as long as the artist is on time, we're great.
Is that a problem usually?
Not lately. Everyone's been very professional.
It's funny that there's producers are hoping that people show up on time. Like you hope that the star shows up on time. I've heard that multiple times. I have very little experience with celebrity talent, but the little that I have, you are kind of building in time when you're like, all right, well, they probably won't show up at this time. So what can we do in the meantime while we wait? It's funny to hear that even at the level that you're working at, it's the same.
Well, you tend to learn, when you work with the same people over and over, you kind of tend to learn their daily schedule. So that's what you do. You are like, okay, well, this person they don't like to have, their call time until after 1:00. So we're going to make sure that we plan our creative and schedule around them showing up around that time. It's just kind of like that. And we also do a lot of like day for night stuff and night for day stuff. Because, you only have so much time in one day.
Yeah, exactly. So is that one shoot day with the talent and then you grab other shots, or is that just truly the whole thing is done in a day?
Most of our shoots are one-day shoots.
That's amazing to me. I'm shocked by that. But I guess it's just a testament to how well crafted these shoot days are and how tight your productions are.
Structure. I'm telling you, structure is equally as important as creativity.
Well, with that, you must have a pretty robust previs process or storyboarding process. Are you doing any work ahead of time to really define the exact shots that you want?
Sometimes. Most of the time we do a lot of planning, but we don't typically do storyboards for music videos. Sometimes, if it's very technical, we do. But we always put together a treatment.
I'm curious what the most challenging music video was for you. Was there one that you just thought you hit that point and you're at the midway point, you're at lunch break and you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, this is never going to happen. This is just not going to happen. But then it does.
There's a few for different reasons, but not anything lately. I think the Cardi B WAP video is probably quite challenging just because it was the first production ever back from COVID. We were the test dummies. They were like, oh, if these music video people can pull it off, great. And if not, then we'll just attack them for their failure. So it was a lot of pressure from the city. It was a lot of pressure from the unions kind of having eyes on us, curious what we're doing. A lot of pressure from our colleagues. The label, the insurance companies didn't support any, it was a massive risk at that time, there was no COVID contingencies, there was a lot of people on set. It wasn't a simple treatment. It was hundreds of people putting that together. Yeah. So it was, that was a 2-day shoot. And, just the challenge of the health aspect to it, that was a new area. I went to a few different trial studies before that, worked closely with the company, read a lot of paperwork on how it works and how accurate testing is, and talking to the crew about quarantining, which was really unfortunate in so many ways. We all kind of felt trapped, except for our little bubble. It was a challenging time for the entire world. I think that in our specific industry, being the first was exciting and challenging. And I think that was one where we were like, are we going to pull this off? We also had multiple A-list artists. And at the time, not everyone even believed in COVID, So it was just sorry if you don't believe in it, but you have to be tested if you're going to come to set, It was kind of there's so many questions up in the air, so many doubts, so much money on the line at risk.
And you're setting the pace for
but a success.
the future like you said, if you failed, it would be used as an example of why it's not the time to start producing again or whatever
Right.
it may be. I want to talk about the music video industry in and of itself. And if you see that there's mobility within that industry, meaning do people get pigeonholed into music video production and find it difficult to transition to film or transition to commercial? Or do you feel it's the opposite? Is it more of a breeding ground for new creatives because you can test out new ideas, learn new things, and apply it to feature films or wherever you may go?
Well, I know that there's a stigma of music videos in my industry. And when I speak with other like television execs or people like showrunners or studios, they're all like, enough about your music videos. Tell me about the films that you've done. And it's like,
Wow.
it's like, yeah, I can understand why you think that the films I've done might be quite more challenging. But when you work on a music video, it is hardly any prep. You are given wild ideas. You have that star client that is not always on every film. They're not like actors. Actors like are trained actors. They know to show up on set at their call time and stuff like that. Artists in the music industry, this is like their commercial for their brand. So they're going to come when they want to come. They don't understand how filmmaking works the way that they might process or understand how music works. So they don't quite understand the details of that. Time is money, and this is your budget that's coming out of your deal for your record deal. So you want to make sure you stay on budget and on time. They don't think about those things. They have that star-like quality, and they do have that star-like quality, and it is their commercial and their brand. So you have to be mindful of like feeding those needs at the same time. You have that struggle. And then the element of all the wild things that we do, just like visually, and the things that we achieve cinematically are quite complicated. Like we design, when we work with the what's it called? The Cobra? It's the remote head. When we work with remote control, when we work with like stuff like that, like you have to like plan and calculate the angles down to the T, and you have to have like a prep day to like really nail all that stuff in. And a lot of times, like you're on a movie, you don't ever work with, those. So it's like the experience that you get on a music video, it's like big time, like work, production, small budgets, no prep, and you have to do it all in one day. So when you can achieve all of those different things, I think that is the most incredible breeding grounds for creativity, because you are extremely challenged on a music video. So if you can pull a music video off and you can have a smooth shoot where everyone feels good and you're on budget and on time and you make these incredible visuals, then I'm going to be like, okay, let's take you on my next film. That's what I would think,
I think that makes sense. And I think you have to have an appreciation for the art form first in order to even acknowledge it. I grew up with music videos. I'm a big fan of them. I like it. And I think that's why, people like me and you and, people watching the show now will see music videos as a place for creative expression more so than maybe films, because it's short, it's quick, less prep, different sets of challenges, and the ideas are more wild. They just are.
We do like to incorporate in a lot of our music videos narrative themes and storylines, like strong storylines. We just did a video, comes out tomorrow, but we released the trailer with Justin Bieber and Diane Keaton. So nice. So we that's going to be a beautiful story to watch. So
I can imagine that artists want to use their music video as an opportunity to certainly, enforce their brand, but also show themselves on screen to potentially get some acting gigs. I mean, it's the perfect canvas to do that on.
Yeah, if that's their goal after, their album deals are done, or when they're like, I want to retire from music, if they want to be an actor, that's like a great reel.
Oh my God. I mean, I can only imagine that Halsey must have been thinking about that when you were filming If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power, that she, she's not singing like you mentioned earlier. So it's not really a music video. There's no real dialogue necessarily, but she's certainly acting. She's portraying a character. She's showing her chops on camera. And I think that can only lead to more acting gigs if she wants.
She's an incredible actor. She's an incredible actor. She's an incredible makeup artist. She's an incredible singer. She's an incredible just all around artist. And if she wants to do that, I have no doubt that she will pull that off like tomorrow.
I love that. Exactly. I just have one last question as we wrap up here. You've been so fun to talk to. My God, you're great on the air. You're a great guest.
Thank you.
You're fantastic. So I've got one last question. We've got a lot of young filmmakers in the audience that are just starting out. For the ones that really love the art form of music video, they really want to get into it. Do you have any advice? Like maybe what are the skills they should hone? What kinds of groups should they join? Like how do you get into this industry?
Allow yourself to be on set, even if you're a PA running and getting coffee. Humility goes so far. If you're humble and hardworking, and maybe you show me a reel and it's not that good, I'm still going to hire you. I'm going to show you what you can do, and I'm going to give you all the tools that I can if you are a good-natured person and diligent and willing to grow. I don't expect perfectionism, especially when you're just starting out. You're not going to be perfect. This is a learning experience, and you're going to fail, and that's how you're going to grow. So just don't be afraid of failure. Get yourself out there, take risks, get yourself on set. That is the best education you can do.
And how do you do that? Like how do people get themselves on your sets?
Well, reach out to a lot of times it's our production managers that do the hiring of like the PAs and the AD team. Start connecting, find people who are first ADs on Instagram and DM them like, hey, if you ever need a PA, let me know. Find first ACs like, hey, if you ever need a camera intern, let me know.
That's how I get PAs. I mean, people reach out to me on Instagram, they reach out on the website, and I appreciate the hustle. So I'm like, hell yeah. If someone's putting in the effort to go out there and just be honest about what they're looking for, that's how I get all my PAs.
And then once you get your foot in the door, if you do a good job, word of mouth goes far. Like,
oh yeah,
it's word of mouth is everything. So
there you go. Some good advice from Jamee, who's working at a super high level here. And we just threw a couple names of projects that you've worked on. We dropped a few names there, but I really encourage you guys, go to the websites. And now I know you said you have your own personal website, and I'll put a link to this in the show notes, of course, Jamee Ranta, JameeRanta.com. But I also want to plug your production company's website as well. So tell us about that.
There's two. I work with Boy in the Castle. I'm partnered with Colin Tilley for that. And that's just Jobs with Colin. And then I have Artifact Content, which is a list of other directors that I work with, and also photographers. I really enjoy editorial and still projects. So picture's worth 1,000 words.
And I was scanning through your editorial work on your site, and it's awesome. And you even said your site is not as updated as you'd like it to be. Basically, that's everyone's situation. But really nice work here. And I'm just a fan of your work. I'm a fan of you. You're great on the air, great information. And I'm so very thankful that you came on. And I'll put a link to all of this stuff in the show notes so you guys can check it out for sure. But we're here to talk about the Halsey film, and you can see it right now on HBO Max. It is called If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power, and it's awesome. So go and check it out. It's an hour-long film, and just unique and fun and interesting and great. And it's just, you guys are going to love it. It's dark. It's everything you want. So go check it out there at HBO Max. So Jamie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, I want to thank Jamee Ranta for coming on the show, talking to us all about her latest project, Halsey's music film, I guess we'll call it. It's a film and it's music video at the same time. And it's called If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power. It's available on HBO Max right now, so check it out for yourself. Of course, I also want you to check out our producer, Connor Crosby, because he's fantastic. You can find him at ignitionvisuals.com. And Dave Siegel over at siegelsound.com. He mixes and masters and makes the show sound so good. So you can check him out there at his site and hire him for your own projects. Of course, you can also check me out at Ben Consoli on Instagram and Twitter, and all things Go Creative Show at gocreativeshow.com. Of course, we want to encourage you, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Search for us on your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. Thank you for joining us today, and we will see you next time on another episode of the Go Creative Show, a podcast for filmmakers.